Okay, Tamaj Brio Arish. Okay, Akarja, Anisha Makojapta at Karen Green Arish, August Taluhuragam Gowil Karja the Makoj. Luke as Condi Kilkenny, and Luke is one of our younger members and leaders, and he's very busy down there in Kilkenny, and we're going to have a chat with how things are going then and how he feels about being a member of the party. And it's very, very busy, exciting times for us, and we're going to have a bit of a 3-minute discussion around that. And we were hoping that maybe some other guests might come, but we'll see how we get on. Right, so I don't know if any of you has had the chance to see, there's a live stream during the week Dolores did with a couple of English guys. Did you see it, Karen? Did you remember the name of it, or I forget the name of it?
No, I didn't see it. No, I heard about it, but I didn't see it. It was a doctor, wasn't there? And
but look, she made some very good points. She made some very good points about the COVID thing. I mean, she's obviously pretty expert about it, but basically there is there's a prevention with the vitamins A, C, and D, and zinc. And there is a cure with the hydroxychloroquine. And basically the government, for whatever reason, have gone down the rabbit hole. They've gone down the wrong track. And either they can't come out of it because they've gone so far down, or they don't want to come out of it. So, if you don't mind, I'll just ask Luke, I haven't had you on before. Yeah. What's your take on that whole thing about the government? Are they just completely complicit in this? Or have they made a mistake? Or what do you think we can get an exit strategy? Or what's things from your point of view?
I think we're so far down the rabbit hole now that it's going to be increasingly difficult before a vaccine is widely available that we'll be able to get out of this. We're going to be in cycles of lockdown until we have a widely distributed vaccine. And I thought it was very interesting in the aftermath of the American election how 2 or 3 weeks before, Trump says a vaccine will be ready by the end of this year, and he was laughed at by CNN and the likes. And then the companies come out in the last couple of days and are saying the vaccine is 95% effective.
I know it's funny. They said 98% effective, but that's not even as effective as your immune system, which is 97% effective in this thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know about this vaccine. We're going to be going for that, or Karen, what's your opinion on vaccines?
Well, I'm not anti-vax, but I do worry about the content. And obviously, people know a lot more about that than I do. But there is aluminium, and you hear different things about what's in them. So I don't really want to comment too much because I don't want to get my information wrong. But I know, Dolores would have had that information, the aluminium, the mercury, some DNA from different places going into it. You don't need that kind of, going into a vaccine. How does that prevent you from getting a disease or a virus? But the message is not getting out from the government on how to protect your immune system. It's very basic. You don't get nutrition from a vaccine. You get it from your food. And yes, supplements will give it to you as well. And basically, good exercise, good health, no smoking, that kind of thing, good, nutritional, balanced diet. And obviously, at this time of the year, our bodies take a hit because less sun, there's darker nights. So obviously, you have to boost the sun way. Now, personally, I have always had a very strong opinion about, nutrition, like vitamin C and vitamin D. Now, I have to say, when this all started, I didn't know about zinc. That was news to me. Zinc was something that you'd kind of done for like your hair, your nails, bones, that kind of thing. But I've started using it myself. But yeah, if you educate yourself about food, sorry, my face is going, and nutrition, it's all there. You just have to read, educate what food groups give you what you need. Kiwi fruit and oranges and bananas, that kind of thing. It's there. Your food is your medicine.
But the way
it's not in a vaccine.
Sorry, the way that we have people like Dolores I mentioned there who is willing to go in for a debate with this guy out of NetFed, Dr. Tony O'Houlihan, and she's just been blank. They're not allowing a difference of opinion. I mean, what are they going to hide? Why do you think they're doing that? I know we all sort of have our opinion on that, but to to the layman, Luke, what's your opinion on why they're just not having an open debate on this? What are they scared about?
I think they've seen what's happened in America and in Britain with the rise of populism. That media's obsession with the kind of darker characters has kind of led to a rise in populism. But what they're not taking into account is the kind of Streisand effect of not covering populist ideals. In effect, like you create a pressure cooker atmosphere. Eventually, the lid is going to blow. And this kind of populist revolt, you can see it springing up all over Europe, like from the Tea Party in 2010. And it's just going to continue to roll. It's going to be 30 years of this, I think. And it's just a matter of time as regards getting our message out.
You think there's going to be 30 years of this suppressing of populist ideals?
No, I think there's going to be 30 years of populist rule. Either left-wing populism in the guise of Sinn Fein, and then there'll be a reaction to that in terms of right-wing populism. What I've seen in the rise of the Tea Party and Farage's UKIP is that you have a huge crossover between Sanders voters and Trump voters, Labour voters and UKIP voters. And this is because they're both populists. They both believe in the working class getting a fair shake. People who are left-wing populists actually believe in immigration being controlled. Bernie Sanders asked in 2011 about illegal immigration. He said, "I don't want illegal immigration. That's a Koch brothers scheme." So if you were actually true to your socialist ideals, if you're true to it, you'd be against illegal immigration.
Yeah, I mean, the Labour Party in Britain were always on for controlled immigration. Tony Benn, all the rest of them, even I think George Galloway is on record as saying, because it drives the wages down. And the old Labour Party in the 70s, the Labour Party were against going into the EU in the 70s because they thought, we're going to get sort of slowed under. We'll have to look after our own working class, So, yes. Well, we're certainly not doing a populist thing at the minute. We are suppressing it. Karen, what do you reckon? How far is this going to go? I mean, have the government gone so far down do you think they know it's the wrong track they're on and they're just deliberately suppressing it?
Well, part of me thinks that. I think my personal feeling is they're using this as an umbrella to get everything in, to make the changes. I mean, I don't want to be conspiracy theory here, but the Great Reset, and we're getting things changed. Bringing in communism to control how we work and operate. We've never seen this before. We've never seen, our movements being controlled the way they are under the guise of our own safety. Sorry?
Quite scary, isn't it?
It is very scary. And I mean, I'm after looking at a video there before I came on, and about a young man in England getting arrested because he came out leaflets. A young boy who's a 16-year-old boy in the UK getting arrested under, not because of racial law, but under the law of malicious malicious mailing. It's something that if you'd use it now if somebody was given wrong information through the letterbox about somebody that is untrue. But they got him on this. He's brought out through the school, humiliated in front of his friends in the college. So there's a new tactic to prevent people from giving out information, through a letterbox, an innocent leaflet. So that's another tactic. I know the police in the UK are really gunning for anyone who's nationalist at all, anyone who's going against the grain, between talking at demos and things like that. So compared to our police is doing so much, but the British police are doing a lot more. So I think it's more to do with they know it's wrong, they've taken hydroxychloroquine off the market, which was there for years, curing other illnesses. So they know what's wrong. So I think they're using that to go in and control and make sure everyone's vaccinated. Now, even though America are talking about mandatory vaccinations and UK, they're not hearing that so much in Ireland. And I was listening to the radio earlier today at work, and there's a big drop in the uptake of the nasal vaccine for children. It's only 20%, and they're really shocked by it. They're concerned about this. So it's a good job people are listening. Now, I know I'm not anti-vax, but I think it's very important that we understand that we don't really need a vaccine for this virus. Children should be allowed, and adults should be allowed to have their own immune system. So I don't think it's quite that they're going to.
How do we counteract it?
They know what rabbit hole they do. They're in. So yeah, go ahead.
How do we counteract it? I mean, the government. There was an election this year. Obviously, some of us stood. Luke, you stood before. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I mean, this government could be in for 4 to 5 years. They're not going to be held to account. Now, there are elections in the north in 18 months, and that's another story. And there's anger up there about they're going to be judged very harshly, which is what the talk is at the minute from certain parties about the mishandling of it. But down south, there's not going to be an election for possibly 4 or 5 years. How do we see that going? Now, I know there's a thing coming up in a couple of weeks we're organising, but apart from demonstrations and stuff, Luke, how do you see things? How do we get rid of this government? Or do we just go to demonstrations or what?
I'm happy enough in the sense that this government, in the way that they've dealt with the crisis, the kind of authoritarian handling of the crisis, coupled with this kind of proposed, they're floating a vaccine passport now at the moment. Like, all of this stuff feeds into our narrative of the kind of centre-right parties taking away our basic freedoms. And the thing about this is, I see Sinn Fein are even money with the bookies to be heading the next government after this one, okay? And I see them as left-wing populists, and when they, as they are running, as they become the next government, I see us being looked at as the alternative, because the two centrist parties have shown themselves to be complete sellouts to the WHO and complete sellouts to China. One of the saddest things that I saw over the first lockdown, and I was very angry about this, I've bought the Irish Independent all my life, right? And during the first lockdown, the Chinese ambassador to Ireland sponsored advertisement. So the Irish Independent took money from the Chinese Communist Party, a party that sells organs, a party that has persecuted the Uyghur Muslims for years, a party that has no sense of fairness as regards trade or trade practices. They took money from them, and what did the Chinese ambassador say in that paid advertisement on the Irish Independent, one of our national papers? He said, "The ills of this virus do not come from the Chinese Communist Party. It's all being manufactured by the populists." That was what he had the gall to say in that sponsored advertisement. I thought it was absolutely disgraceful.
Christ.
Well, exactly. I mean, well, we have a thing next week. We're going to talk about it anyway. It's out being advertised. There's a march for freedom. There's a rally for basically just to do things like honor Christmas and help people get back to support, to have some sort of Christmas with their family. I mean, they were trying to bring in a thing in Denmark there. Was it forced vaccinations? And they only relented on it because there was major people power in Denmark. So I think if people do start getting out in the streets more, they'll maybe start relenting and going back. But anyway, that's Saturday week at the Custom House in Dublin at what time is it? 2 o'clock. Or
28th of November. Yeah.
I mean, there should be a big turnout because I think there's a lot of anger out there from this. Isn't it?
There is, and I seen a video earlier today about the test, and I showed it to you as well about the cycles on the test. It's too high here in Ireland and the UK. It should only be less than 35. Now, I'm not an expert on the test, but just going by what I was hearing today, that is discovered that the top scientist, Dr. Fauci, who normally would be quite controversial, has come out and said that tests that give a cycle of more than 35, the information is useless. It's going to pick up a load of different viruses, but it's not going to tell you the real virus. It's not going to give you the right information. That's why you're getting a high amount of cases given false, negatives and positives. So in Ireland, we're doing 40 to 45, and the same in the UK. Now, when TD was asking that question during the week, he couldn't get that information, but luckily enough, we were able to get it from the HSC. But I mean, why would you want to go higher just to get, a trace of a virus that really is probably the remnants of exposure from weeks ago, and then you're telling someone they're positive and they're not. So it's false information and cases that are actually going up, and the deaths are much lower now compared to the last lockdown. So there's no need for lockdown. And every time I look at a shop or the pub's been closed, I mean, that's really what gets to me, that businesses are closed. They're being destroyed. There's a place down beside me here in Drogheda, the coffee shop opened there a year ago. He hasn't been able to open it properly. He opened another business before this current lockdown, a barber shop, and now that's closed. So it's like things like that. There's no, entrepreneurship has been killed. So if you are about to go open a business, or you have been there for years and doing very well, having a nice life out of your business, like a hair salon or a coffee shop or something, it's gone. It's destroyed completely. That is communism. You're putting people and businesses on state control, and then they can't have a proper life, a good lifestyle, to kind of progress. So if you were say working in pennies, whatever, and then you become, supervisor or manager, there's no room to progress because your job is destroyed. And how you can then the public don't even they don't even get a chance to shop online and then go into the shop. So the choice has been taken away. So that's what really gets to me about these lockdowns. And
people terrorized. It's just it's terrorism that people terrorized about it. I mean, Steve Baker was a Brexiteer MP in England, and he says if Boris Johnson doesn't come up with an exit strategy in 2 weeks, there's going to be parliamentary rebellion. And I think they should be calling for something. There has to be something like that in Ireland, where people said, "Look, we want to get an exit strategy from this here," But I think if we pressure the government, they're going to have to start listening, But look, some people were asking just about yourself. I mean, it's good to see a new guest coming in. But you stood did you stand at one point for council in Kilkenny? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that. Was that for the IFP or was that before that? Or
no, I stood as an independent candidate in Kilkenny City.
Right.
So basically, the state of local politics at that time in Kilkenny was strange. You had two populist independent candidates. Eugene McGuinness would have been one of them. He's a brother to John, who's in the Fianna Fáil party.
Right.
Himself and John are complete polar opposites in terms of their political ideals. So what happened was there was a planned development of a mosque beside Nolan Park.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
And a place that suffers very badly with traffic congestion at the best of times. It was a completely unsuitable site for the mosque. The people rose up against it. Not one of the elected councillors would speak out against it. And Eugene is from over that area. Myself and Eugene met up. I said I would run on the opposite side of the city, and we'd have a transfer pact. On board Planala, back down about the planning. Eugene was elected, and I ended up with I ended up with 237 votes, and I got more first preferences than the people before profit candidate in the city. So all in all, it was a good day for Kilkenny, and as well as that, every single elected Sinn Féin councillor was wiped out in that election. Every single one.
Good on you.
Brilliant.
So we both got skin in the game. So it's you've dipped your toe into the pond, and you may well go again. So it's good to well done on that. But I mean, I was going to just ask you the question. I mean, I know it was one of our other young members got a wee bit of slagging from people sort of saying, "What's a young lad like yourself getting involved with a bunch of middle-aged xenophobes or whatever?" I mean, how do you counteract that, or do you get much slagging like that, Luke? Or
yeah, look, I get an awful lot of slagging, but I often find that it's a lot easier to find common ground with people based on your tone and based on how you approach people. Like, there's a lot of people in my area who disagree with me fundamentally on policy, but would vote for me because of either close ties in the community, things I've done outside of politics. Like I'm involved. I worked in a bar for a long time in Kenny, and I also I'm involved in the football club. I'm after forming a football club here in this side of the city. So I think that, like, becoming part of the community and actually engaging with people who might not otherwise be politically engaged is the way forward for us. Do you know?
Yeah. Well, fair play. I mean, it's not easy standing. You're putting your head above the parapet, and certainly I would say our politics is centred, right? It's not extremist at all, you know. But some people would label you as that, and we saw some of that ourselves, didn't we? And you do get a little bit. You do get a wee bit of the old, you know, you have to take the rough with the smooth. But
yeah.
Yeah,
I think you kind of have to ask the question, conversations that have been reactive. Do you know what I mean? If somebody calls you racist, well, you know, like you tried yourself, why is it you think we're racist? Where do you see that? Why do you think, you know, it's kind of like a conversation than a reactive row. And that's something you need to kind of learn. And maybe it's something that maybe they've seen or heard, and even from personally, I have had it in my own family and things like that. It's like they ask you a question about racism, and I got to say, you know, it's not racist to want to control immigration or want to preserve your history and your culture and your language and just a way of life. I mean, even it's not just our Irish culture; it's our way of life, our daily life in the present. Is actually on the track now. If we had looked at this last year, we wouldn't have had to worry about that. We didn't see this coming, well, to a certain degree. But now it's like everything. Now freedom is like everything. Regarding the demos, and I agree what you're saying there earlier on, CATHAL, but I'm seeing a still huge amount of compliance. And like demos are great. Sorry?
Oh, right. Demos, yeah.
You know, like demos are great, and we need to keep doing them. And we've seen them in big areas like Germany and Britain, but there's still not enough people coming out. There seems to be pockets. You know, they might go on a Saturday for a few hours outside GPO. We need it bigger. They're too fragmented as well. So when we go out now Saturday week, who will join us? There's still the kind of fragmentation and division, and they're not big enough. And there's still an awful lot of compliance still. And that's what worries me as well. There's a big gap there that needs to be filled. That demos, we need to kind of go to the doors now still, even the lockdown. I started doing that myself here locally in Drogheda, getting the pack ready, putting it through the letterbox and saying, there you are, this is the information we're giving you, the Garda Oath, information about your constitutional rights, the mask, and about the party and your freedoms. You know, right down to, you can't even go to mass. That's crazy.
But when you talk about their different culture, preserving culture, I mean, I do a lot of studying about biodiversity and environmental type of things and species infiltration and introduction of different species into ecosystems. And if you bring a species in, I think the red squirrel was obliterated by the grey squirrel. that upsets the balance, the biodiversity balance, and it's not good for the general environment to have that. And if you bring a scavenger or if you bring a another species in, like raccoons are they bring a lot of problems in, and they get rid of other species. The accepted opinion is that that's not good for the biodiversity, that's not good for the environment. But you could extrapolate that argument in and say, and some of those species are out of place in the environment that they come in, but they do come in and they do survive, and they obliterate the indigenous native species. So I was studying that today. So you could put that in, or extrapolate that point into human races. Each race or each person or each nationality has their own native area, and if you artificially plant people into a different culture, it really upsets the diversity and the cohesiveness of that culture, and it causes problems. Now, over years and centuries, you're going to get an element of natural migration, but what we've seen recently is a totally unnatural forced migration into countries, which I don't think is going to work out well in the long run. I think it's not balanced, and I think it's just going to cause problems. So there you go.
It's a lack of culture. You know, I mean, if I went over to Canada or Australia, I'm expected to kind of go into to blend in with their culture and history, but I don't see that happen here because they don't even understand how we, you know, our history and rebellion and Christianity and music, or they don't care about it as much. So they don't really blend. Some people blend in quite well, like, you know, the Polish community, Eastern European community, but so some cultures don't, and they don't seem to care how we live, and they don't appreciate our freedoms. So they're not going to make the effort to kind of integrate.
No.
And that's
I mean,
the problem as well.
I was reading something this week about there's gangs roaming around in Dublin that the police, the Garda, are just not able to deal with at all. I mean, when you compare Ireland the way it is now to say Iceland or Greenland, there's no diversity there. I mean, that's still for the Icelandic people and all that. Well, why is it Ireland?
No problems.
Ireland's what?
No problems, probably. You know what I mean? Like it's
Ireland's an offshore island off Europe. Why does it? It shouldn't be planned as that sort of country. What do you think, Luke? I'm talking a lot about
that. I have this thing. I'm a big fan of Steve Bannon. He's the former chief strategist for the president of America.
Yeah.
And he calls it economic nationalism. It doesn't care about your race, your ethnicity, your sexual preference, who your friends are, what your preferences are. What it cares about is citizenship value. In the same way that a company looks after their shareholders, the benefit of the nation has to be for its citizens. And so decreasing illegal immigration, limiting legal immigration, pushes up the wages of the lower to lower middle class. It encourages growth in these low wage jobs, stops saturation of jobs in those areas. Whereas the Irish model, the globalist Varadkar model, is to base the entire prosperity of the country, which only looks good on a balance sheet because it's the big multinationals that are doing well. It doesn't look good for the guy who walks down and pays for his paper and his bread in the local shop. It doesn't work for the guy who goes drinking in the local pub every Wednesday night. It works for those guys working in Pfizer, and those guys, and that's where the problem is, and that's why we have a big job to do to get people to understand this.
Yeah. I mean, the EU doesn't do anything for the man in the street. It's okay for the elites and the Dublin 4 crowd, but ask the guy in the street, what really is the EU doing for them? Not very much, really, at all. I mean, then you talk about this business now about the Article 17. They're going to get rid of the citizenship.
27th Amendment, yeah.
Sorry, the 7th Amendment, yeah. So they're going to try and get rid of that. I mean, there's already was a vote on that. Now we're having to vote again on it. So that means you're going to have a situation where there's going to be, if you're born here, if you're born in Ireland, you're going to be basically automatically entitled to citizenship. Whereas they tightened it up a few years back, where they made it you had to have your parents born here. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, but Carl, I don't even think they're going to give us a vote on it. I think they're going to try and ram this through.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah. They're not going to give us a vote. That's right. Yeah.
If they gave us a vote on it, they'd only give this party a platform, and that's what they don't want to do.
Yeah.
So.
I agree with you. They're not going to give a vote on it. Yeah.
No.
It's going to be rammed through. Yeah. And that's another reason why they don't want people out on the street, because people are going to start talking to it and engaging with each other on it and stuff. And no, it seems to be they're bringing it in through the back door.
Because I fundamentally believe in the same way that we won Nice, we won Lisbon, we'd win another vote on the 27th Amendment. We mightn't win it by as much as we did in 2004, but we would win it.
Right. But do they not constitutionally need to give a referendum, because it was changed by referendum the last time? In order for it to go back, regardless of what you think of it, they have to give a referendum. How will they get around that problem of just changing? You can't just change it, because constitutionally, I'm not very good at this, but like, you know what I mean?
I agree with you, but if you look at this, Anthony Coughlin wrote this about the how we would need constitutionally. There's nothing in the Constitution that says we would need a vote to leave the EU. Now, there's probably people much more qualified than me to tell you about the law, but I do agree with you, Karen. But I don't trust this government to abide by that, if you know what I'm saying.
And that's why I'm putting that pact together for, about the rights and the Garda Oath, because people don't have a clue. And only I'm listening, I'm kind of, finding it myself. I would have been, even last year, I would have said, Constitution gave us our rights. They don't. They're there already. They're there before you're born. They're after you're born. So I would have been, naive that way. So it's good more people listen to stuff. The only thing is, not everyone. If I said that to my friends at work, they would laugh at me if I mentioned communism or your constitutional rights, because they would say, well, my rights are not important because my family's health is more important. But that is your right. Your health of your family life, your privacy, your movement around where you see fit, that is all a part of it. But they wouldn't see it. There's almost like it's separated somehow. As if, if I talked about constitutional rights, it's almost as if that is not important as just COVID and keeping safe and wearing the mask. It's like that's more important than the right to have a life. You can't live a proper life if you're locked in and you're worrying about who you're sitting beside in the bus. That's not living. That's not living. I can't believe.
It's not living.
The compliance is very, very serious, very high still.
Yeah, there's a question's come up there. Somebody is saying, do you believe in working with the National Party? We're getting slagged off. The far left morons were slagging us off about the rally next week, saying that, they're our sister party, but we don't work directly with them, but we would be pretty much on the same page as them on certain issues. I have no problem with working with them electorally or something like that. They're slightly different on us on the EU. They're not really against the EU the way we are, but they're more extreme on some points. Karen, you know a bit about that. What do you think about the National Party? They're a bit more extreme in certain areas, aren't they? About the death penalty and stuff.
Yes, and also they probably. That's the reason why I probably wouldn't have linked in with them, because they're not strong enough on the EU issue, because that's our headline policy here. And that is, you have to leave the EU, and then everything else falls into place, because that's where our problems start. So the National Party, while it's good to have some kind of agreement and maybe working together at some level, they wouldn't be strong enough on that. And then obviously, the immigration, I'm not sure, they're probably a bit, less flexible around the immigration issue as well.
we're flexible.
We're flexible, I think. You know, we're not saying no to immigration. We're saying control immigration. So we're allowed to get back on our feet and still support immigration at some level. So we can have a say who comes into our country, like skills and, you know, background and that kind of thing, and supporting families that need it as well.
I'm not against a controlled immigration. I mean, there has to be a certain amount of immigration, but it's not just a blanket. But you know, we always say we want a sensible approach to immigration. But there's a response there from Benthebulben. He's saying there's no requirement for a referendum on citizenship. It's a matter for the legislature. So that answers that one. So they're going to bring that in, Karen.
Yeah,
that's not good.
That's right. But I agree with what Karen was saying. There was a kernel of the truth in what she was saying, in that originally the Constitution was meant to be by referendum, was the only way you could change the Constitution.
Karen confusing.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying about this government. They know that they're on the ropes with Sinn Fein, and they're going to push things through, especially along the lines of social justice. And you see this hate crime legislation and stuff like this. They have to get more hardline on this because it takes the legs from under Sinn Fein, or that's what they think. But Sinn Fein are going to kill them the next time. They're going to kill them in the next general election because because Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil don't understand that their natural voters have no time for this kind of social justice warriors and identity politics. And they're going to find it out the hard way when Sinn Fein get in.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
I mean, Sinn Fein are very much they're on that page anyway. They're on the social justice page themselves.
Yeah, that's what's pushing Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to try and cut that under them, to try and steal back some of that support. But they're never going to get that support anyway. Like, you know, it doesn't make sense what they're doing.
Yeah. Although, I mean, Varadkar is pretty much a globalist. He's Mr. EU, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
Although a lot of the ones that originally might have been in Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would be more centre right, but they've lurched to the left themselves. There's a question there has come in. What do you think about Niall? Niall McConnell, I presume that obviously is. I mean, Niall has sort of slagged us off a wee bit, and he's good. I mean, he is fair play to him. Like, he comes out, he's not afraid to stand up to certain people, isn't he? And he does a lot of good work, and he gets his name out there, and he certainly gets the nationalist message. And he would encourage people to vote for any nationalist party. Any thoughts on that, guys? Niall? Question was asked there.
I think I think what you're seeing here is a lot of these kind of nationalist movements that are springing up in different quarters of the country are more than happy to attack other national movements, right? But what you're seeing is the IFP getting the most votes the last time, and the IFP being the least likely to attack other nationalist groups in that sense. Do you know, if we can coalesce now, look, you can disagree with these people on a variety of issues, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But we have a kind of a USP, which is anti-EU. If these people want to get on with the agenda, their nationalist agenda, I think we showed in the last election that this is the most serious party to do so.
Yeah. But it is, I mean, you touched on it there. Look, the Irish electors, I think, are quite, have a difficult job in deciphering what's going on, because on the one hand, Sinn Fein are they're very green, white, and gold. They've got the flag and everything. But on the other hand, they're the most globalist party of the lot. And then you've got Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, which are more seen as more respectable, but their voter base would be maybe more to the right. So the Irish voter has a lot of thinking to do about who to vote for. And then you've got us coming in who are traditional sort of nationalists. You know, there's a lot of disinformation going on about where parties are actually standing, isn't there? We have a hard time. We have to sort of explain to people that
certain parties who are nationalists supposedly are not really nationalists, isn't it?
I find it very interesting. I'm obsessed with Corbyn and the Labour Party, and the disconnect that Corbyn had between Corbyn and the kind of globalists in the Labour Party, the Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
And Corbyn was in tune with the base. He was anti-EU, right? Corbyn was in tune with the base. But what you're seeing with Sinn Féin
went awful quiet on it though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because of Starmer pushed them that way. And what you're seeing with Sinn Féin now is their voters are not pro-EU. Their base is not pro-EU. But what they're picking up is these kind of niche, far-left college students that's really accelerating their growth as a party. But if we can pick off 20% of those nationalist, anti-EU members in Sinn Féin, you will have a serious populist movement. In the same way that Trump picked off 20% of the Sanders vote. Like if Corbyn had ran as an anti-EU populist, we wouldn't be talking about Prime Minister Boris Johnson at the moment. We'd be talking about Prime Minister Jeremy Corbyn. But he got weak on the EU issue because of Starmer.
He sold out. He didn't he didn't stick to his guns on the EU thing.
Yeah, it's fine. I've seen an awful lot of that. I'm very disappointed for Britain. Anyone who voted for Brexit, they're not getting the deal
he
they deserve.
He didn't stick to his guns on the EU. He went he went along with the globalist agenda. He could have got in if he had stuck to his guns in it. But
can I ask a question of?
I mean, you're right. You're right in that we will pick up at least 10% of that Sinn Féin transfer. I saw it in Louth. I got it.
Yeah, you got that. Some of that, yeah.
Go on ahead. Is my mic working?
Yeah, you're a bit slow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask a question of Luke. How do we get that? Take that vote away.
Right. Is my mic working? I can't hear it. Yeah.
Karen,
I think it's just. I mean, we did get that. We did get 10% of their transfer. I mean, it is there. That vote is there.
Yeah, I'd say, Karen. The thing is about taking that Sinn Féin vote is we have to go to these estates. You see them in every constituency up and down the country. I've been there. You have to estate, and you know they're Sinn Féin estates. You see the tricolours out. You see the Irish Republic flag out. You know they're Sinn Féin estates. You have to go and you have to engage with people in those areas, because what I'm seeing over and over and over again is that you have a complete disconnect between that party's leadership and its traditional voter base. They're going to do exactly what the Labour Party is, what they did, go after the niche college voter and leave behind their traditional base. And that's where you get them. You go after the traditional base because the traditional base wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah, you're right. There is a parallel between Labour in Britain and their traditional base and the nationalist traditional base, which has not been represented by Sinn Féin. Karen, what's your take on that?
Well, I was going to say that again. Just repeat that question because I was thinking of something there. Go ahead.
I was just saying about the parallel between the Labour Party in Britain and the Sinn Féin nationalist thing in Ireland, the traditional voter base. I mean, there is a parallel there, and if we can tap into that, we can do well. Because we're saying what Sinn Féin said 10 years ago.
Yeah, because I mean, there is a big gap between what the old Sinn Féin and the new Sinn Féin, and we're seeing it up in the north as well. But a lot of people with what I'm finding is they're complaining about Sinn Féin, but they won't move away from it. And like Luke is right about what he's saying about the estates and in the town, your local area. Is there a way of finding that out? Because I know there's one particular estate now that's quite, I don't know, it's quite tricky in Drogheda that would be, possibly Sinn Féin. How do you find that information, electorally? Is there a way of finding that out where the votes came from electorally in your town? And then target them.
Well, I presume there is, Karen, but what I would do is like I know in my town, I know from experience which estate votes Sinn Féin. You know by the people who you know in the estate what way they vote. Like you can, and especially a lot of people my age, like you know which way a fella is inclined as regards a lot of people from my background that are my age would be traditional. Their fathers would have voted for Fine Gael, they'll vote for Fine Gael. Whereas you can see in certain areas in the county or in the city that there's just a Sinn Féin DNA there. Like Kathleen Funchion topped the poll here in Kilkenny with 25,000. They're going to run two candidates next time here. Do you know?
Yeah, so you're up against that now.
Yeah.
The
fact that they haven't got voted in, they didn't get into the government, everybody's still going to give them another chance. I was thinking that if they hadn't got in, people will see how globalist they are. They're still going to play the old victim that nobody wants to deal with them. So I think you're probably right that they might do well enough the next time round, in the south anyway.
Yeah, they'll win. They didn't run enough candidates the last time. They'll win the seats this time to head of government, and that's where I see the chain reaction of an IFP surge, because you'll see they'll do exactly what the Democrats did in America with Obama. They'll overshoot their mandate in terms of healthcare, in terms of identity politics, in terms of imposing things on ordinary people who have no interest. And that's where we can make massive gains. In this electoral cycle, we may lose out in terms of Sinn Féin are going to be on the rise. But I see this as a 10-year project whereby the next 5-year cycle is our cycle to make gains.
Okay. I agree.
I mean, we've been seeing it up in the north. It's obviously a different jurisdiction, different kettle of fish, but I see potential for us up there as well. Though, we're going to get both sides. People are coming over to us. They want a freedom party. So although the Brexit debate's been sort of had, we can still make big traction on the freedom thing and the anti-lockdown thing, and we're getting it from both sides. We've seen that up north in Belfast, Karen. People are coming up to us saying, I use the party of Dolores. I use the party that are talking about freedom. They want a freedom party. I think we're going to get it from both sides. Even the unionists are coming forward to us,
And they're very much, you keep saying that, they're very much on board with what we think. And obviously working with communities, obviously it's a different political field up there than it is down here, but the unions are more in line with us and how we think and what we want. So it's a matter of, I think we have to try different tactics maybe, because we're looking for, getting out of Europe. Northern Ireland is already getting out of Europe, so it's a different tactic.
There's a thing, I mean, I heard a stream there with, there was a wee loyalist girl, Jolie, you know her, Jolie. She was saying that there's Catholic people in Belfast coming forward to her, and they're saying that they have nobody to vote for. Now, it is a bit of a stretch for some Catholic nationalists to vote for a unionist party, but they feel that they've nobody to vote for. So we will get that vote, as well as some unionist votes as well,
It's a matter of persistently being there and getting a message out, We're such a small island, we have a lot of work to do. It's a bit, because, building a party is very hard work, because you have to kind of get past some prejudices as well. And, the public, excuse me, the public perception of us, and that's what you're up against as well. So while most people will be interested and curious maybe about what we're doing, if you're standing in Drogheda and doing a canvas on a Saturday afternoon, some people might engage with you and to say, like, what are you about and all the rest of it. but people will say, "Oh, you're racist," or you're like, we do get hassle if we talk about anti-masks. They don't like that information going out because we're asking people to break the law. That's not the case. We give information. We give information about health, about the masks, that the government should be doing. We're doing what the government should be doing, and that's the difference between our party and other nationalist parties. We're actually taking that step. We're active, and that's the difference. So hopefully that will help us as well.
That's a good point. Sorry?
No, go ahead.
There's a good point being made by freedom is a huge deal, especially as we see how much of it we have lost. I think we should get a theme tune. Bruce Springsteen, I know he's a real globalist, he's part of the elite establishment, but he did a great cover of a Bob Dylan song, Chimes of Freedom. It sums up what we're saying. And I think we should use that as our theme tune or as our play on music.
Yeah.
Check it out.
You could do that.
I haven't got it on the phone tonight, but maybe next time we'll get that one going,
Oh,
I know Ben Bulben is a big Elvis fan, but I don't know, what do you think about that song, that Dylan song? Is he there? Well, we can get
Luke, is
it? No, it's not Luke. It's Ben Bulben. It's
all right.
Burgess. Well, look, if anybody has anything else they want to add, we'll maybe wrap it up there.
Yeah. Just we have an awful lot of work to do.
Well, Saturday week's the big day.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yes, he's got back. Good old Bruce. Yeah. But Bruce, unfortunately, is a real globalist. Not like Morrissey. Morrissey was deplatformed from his record label because he's not fitting in with the agenda, the diversity agenda. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at least he has the backbone to leave.
Well, look, thanks very much. Gaelileo Article as chat to stop.
Oh, no problem. The 5 or bit.
Yeah.
No, lads,
okay, good to hear Ella. Luke, anything else you want to add, or?
No, I really enjoyed it. Look, it's going to be a long process.
What was that?
I really enjoyed it, but it's going to be a long process, But one thing I would say is that, like pinpointing, like what I was saying to Karen earlier, pinpointing the areas that you think are our kind of strong points. In the local election when I was running, I transferred very well with Fine Gael, but that was only because of the area where I'm from. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So like, if you're trying to get councillors elected, a lot of it is to do with where they live in their local electoral area, and I think that's a massive thing that has to be taken into account if we want to run candidates locally the next time.
I mean, I checked out the transfers that in Louth, and I didn't get any from Fine Gael, but I got a 10% chunk of the Sinn Fein one, and some from the others. But Fine Gael, I saw the Fergus Nolan ones, and not one was coming to us. Like,
yeah. Well, look, imagine if you could take that 10% transfer the next time and turn it into 10%. That 10% into first preferences. Imagine where that would get you, like, do you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. There's big potential there, But it's a long process. We're here for the long haul. But we were caught a wee bit on the hop the last time, I think now we've had a lot more with the year that's been in it, and it's put us right on the map electorally.
Yeah.
Karen, anything to say there?
Well, I mean, we don't want to be the COVID party, but I think we have to use it because it is about freedom. It is as touched every aspect of our lives, to, going for a walk, to working and enjoying a social life that we suddenly has been taken away from us. So I think I always feel strongly about, like, Facebook is a great platform and we use it to a great degree, and it has been a double-edged sword to a certain degree, but we cannot beat on the ground, on the ground canvassing and being out there and try different tactics. So if you're in a lockdown, try something else. How do you get out your word? And if you're not out of the lockdown, you go out and you canvass. and talking to people, giving out leaflets, talking to businesses, posting stuff, have a pack ready, you know, like, you know, come up brainstorming ideas among ourselves. You know, we need to even talk to each other among the party and say, listen, is there anything you're doing down in Cork or Kilkenny or Galway that we're not doing up here in Drogheda, and vice versa? Because, I mean, you know, that's how we get ideas going as well. There could be something there that we need.
I know we're in lockdown. Luke, have you been getting in touch with anybody down there in Kilkenny, or how's things been going with Commons and that down there?
There's been a few protests, and it would have a lot of members who are our members would be at them. I haven't had the chance to actually have an official coming yet because of the lockdowns. Because I want to have a room where we can get everyone in and have a good kind of conversation, you know, for coming. So that's what we'll be working on whenever we get out of this bloody thing, you know.
I totally agree. Yeah. I'm all for face to face on, you know, in a room where there's a back of a pub or something like that. Zoom is only good for plan B. You can't beat, you know, meeting face to face. Go on, Colin.
Oh no, this is our public out there, but I mean, the meeting next Saturday week should be a good opportunity to meet up with people and springboard and get new members in and all sorts of things, you know. So hopefully it goes well. Hopefully we can travel to it, you know.
Yeah, I'll be there anyway. Definitely.
Yeah. Mm.
Right. Well, look, guys, that's nearly an hour up already. So, Mara Dirch, Meg, or a minute my agaf chat to chat.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on board, Luke. Hopefully come on again.
And we'll see you all there, and hopefully.
Good night. Thanks, CATHAL. Good night.
Thanks, Luke.
Good luck, lads. Thanks.
Good night.
We'll see you again next time. Slán.
Slán.